Great. Okay, thank you so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the 3 Perks of Getting Your City's Data Checkup webinar from What Works Cities, and we're so excited to chat with all of you today. Really quickly, before we get started and before we even introduce ourselves, a couple of housekeeping things. We are recording this webinar today. It will be available and archived on our website later, so don't feel the need to take any hurried notes or anything. We'll be happy to share this out later. Second thing is, please remember to keep yourself muted. And at the very end, we'll open up for questions. So hang on to any questions that you have. If you are joining us through our Zoom online web platform, you can also just use the chat box function to send us any questions that you have throughout. And then we'll go ahead and address them at the very end when we open up for questions. Yeah, so go ahead and remember to keep yourself muted. We are recording and we'll get started. So thank you so much for joining. My name is Madeline Weatherhead. I'm an associate at Results for America here, and then I'm joined by my colleague Lauren.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Sue. I'm a senior program manager here at Results for America, overseeing certification assessment as part of the What Works Cities initiative.
Great, and you can see Lauren just had a baby, and I don't have a child. That's my dog. That's my dog Hayward. We'll keep going. Ask any questions about either of them if you'd like later. So for our agenda today, we're going to cover what is What Works Cities certification. So for those of you who are new to who we are and what we do, we'll give you a little bit of background. For those of you who are old hat, you'll get to hear us describe this again for the 100th time and start to memorize it, I'm sure. And then we're going to go into what the certification assessment is, what this data checkup is, and then as promised, we'll tell you about all the perks that you can potentially have by completing that assessment. But I'm going to pass to Lauren, and she's going to give you a little bit of background about What Works Cities and our certification program.
Great, thanks, Madeline. So What Works Cities was launched by Bloomberg Philanthropies in April of 2015. We help local governments use data and facts effectively to tackle their most pressing challenges and improve residents' lives. We are a consortium of 5 expert partners that help local governments build capacity and skills to use data and evidence effectively to make more informed decisions, deliver more effective services and programs, and overall, again, improve residents' lives. You'll see our 5 partners listed here. Each of our partners provides support to cities that helps them advance towards What Works Cities certification and improve their overall data practices. We'll talk a bit more about each partner's expertise area later in the webinar. So this year, we achieved our goal of working with 100 mid-sized American cities, assisting local governments with their efforts against use data and evidence to drive decision-making and building capacity in the cities to do this work on their own. These 100 cities represent a diverse cross-section of the country, demonstrating that all kinds of cities and local governments can do this work. Now, working with these 100 cities, we learned a lot along the way. Each city and local government is unique, but there were certainly common challenges and struggles that came to the surface. We saw that 80% of cities have engaged the public on a strategic goal that they have, but perhaps only 40% have communicated publicly that there is progress towards the goal. We know that making good use of the enormous amounts of data cities have access to is much easier said than done. As you can see here, cities have invested in a tool to release data to the public, but perhaps a small portion of those cities have actually detailed a process to regularly update that data regularly. In some cases, many local governments either aren't collecting the right data, or when they are, they don't have the skills or technical expertise inside city government to strategically put that data to use in the way they make decisions. What we heard over and over again from local governments is that they're interested in this work, but they just needed concrete steps on where to begin, where to focus their efforts, or even to understand where their practices stood to get everyone where we want them to go. And so we designed What Works Cities certification to help cities close this gap.
Really quickly, just for anyone who just joined us, please remember to mute yourself on your computer or on your phone. Thank you.
So What Works Cities is the National Standard of Excellence for Data-Driven, Well-Managed Local Government. The program evaluates whether cities have the right people, processes, and policies in place to put data and evidence at the center of decision-making. Launched in March of 2017, the program helps all cities benchmark their progress and develop a roadmap for using data and evidence to drive effective change and deliver results for their residents. Again, by recognizing local governments that excel in this work, the program is providing models others can learn from.
I'm going to pause here for just one moment to remind anybody who's joining us to please mute yourself.
We are excited actually to do this package 75-minute 3-session workshop. We'd love to do that on a Sunday before the official.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for whoever caught themselves. All right. So we'll keep going now.
Great. So now I'll cover our certification criteria. The certification criteria set the standard of excellence. The criteria themselves outline the people, processes, and policies that are foundational to a well-managed city. The program has 45 criteria, and they are grouped by 8 foundational practices listed here. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about each of our foundational practice areas next. So again, all the criteria holistically look at whether your local government has the people in place to execute this work, the policies and practices in place to keep the work going and sustainable, and the programs in place that are effective and really moving and driving change. For data governance, we're looking at how your local government is structured to oversee data inventorying and data governance practices in alignment with the citywide technical, privacy, and strategic objectives you have set. In evaluations, we're looking at how your local government is using standard research methods to gain insights into the design and implementation or effects of a policy or program or service that your local government offers, and how you're strategically and making continual improvements to the program. In general management, we're looking at how the chief executive and local government leadership play a role in this work. How are they explicitly communicating and demonstrating to staff that governing with data and evidence is an expectation, and how are they using data and evidence to make decisions, and how are they describing the impact of those efforts to the residents. With our open data foundational practice area, we're looking at how has the local government created sustainable systems to promote informed decision-making through transparency and robust citizen engagement. With performance and analytics, we're looking at how the local government has set the right people and policies and procedures in place to learn how to do better. How are they setting metrics and targets towards strategic goals, and how are they inserting insights gained into the operational decision-making process, and how are they using those insights to solve local government problems through performance management systems. How are you overall creating a true culture of accountability, of setting targets and holding yourselves to them. In repurposing, we're looking at how local governments are creating a strategic process to shift funding and resources from ineffective programs and services, using data to determine their ineffectiveness, and moving funds to programs that are evidence-based and residence-focused. With results-driven contracting, we're looking at what different strategies your local government might have to structure, evaluate, and actively manage contracts strategically. How are you using data to leverage procurement as a tool to achieve your strategic goals and make progress towards them? And finally, with stakeholder engagement, we're looking at what your local government does to design programs and processes that go beyond open data policies and portals, that facilitate real opportunities for the community to use the open data to improve lives of those in your community.
So I think we can aim to try to get into.
So those are our foundational practices. I will then go now into talking a bit more about the assessment process itself. So any city with a population of more than 30,000 in the United States is eligible to participate in certification. We encourage all cities to do so. The assessment itself is an online survey. Again, it's asking folks to identify the people, policies, and practices you all have in place across those 45 certification criteria. As you complete the assessment, you're going to have the opportunity to provide context and narrative to your replies. For all affirmative responses or practices that you've identified exist in your local government, we'll be asking you to submit some sort of documentation to help validate the practice. For instance, if your local government does have an open data policy, we'll ask you to supply the link to that policy. If you identify that evaluations are part of the budget request and renewal process, we will ask you to submit budget request forms to us so we can see that practice demonstrated. And again, you'll be able to provide us with some context or narrative to help describe where your practices currently are so we can get a true picture of where you are at. A team of experts from Results for America and other What Works Cities partners will assess the completed applications, and then Results for America will generate a customized report for your city that benchmarks your performance across the 45 criteria. It also will benchmark your performance across other cities' performance as well. You then will have an opportunity to participate in a debrief call with us. We will walk through the certification report with you and our audited responses that we've provided to you and our recommended next steps to improve your city's data health. The majority of cities will go through the first 3 steps of the process that I outlined. We estimate about 10% of cities that apply would be certified. For those cities that are highest performing and are looking like they are likely to be certified, we will conduct independent research and interviews, including a review call and a site visit. And we will also engage members of our standard committee, who are a group of local government experts that have endorsed and licensed knowledge to our program and to our criteria. At the end of the day, all local governments that undergo the assessment better understand their strengths and weaknesses and will receive support to drive stronger outcomes for their community. Now, in January of 2018, we announced our first cohort of certified cities to achieve certification. A local government can achieve one of these 3 tiers of certification, silver, gold, and platinum. And as you can see here, we have recognized 9 cities so far as leaders in this field that have been awarded certification. And they were selected from more than 115 applicants. Los Angeles listed here is the only city to receive certification at the gold level. Boston, Kansas City, Missouri, Louisville, New Orleans, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, and DC have all received certification at the silver level. No city currently has achieved platinum, which is the highest level of certification. So again, even if you don't believe your city will achieve certification this year, we still encourage you to submit an assessment, because doing so will allow you to advance your knowledge currently of how to use data and evidence effectively to address critical issues. In addition, it makes you eligible for a broad range of support from What Works Cities to help you continue to build a more effective local government. To talk more about the range of support and all the different perks and benefits of applying and completing the assessment, I will turn it back to my colleague, Madeline.
Hi, everybody. It's Madeline again. Okay, so we just threw a ton of information at you. I know that it was a lot. Again, if you joined us a little late, we're going to do a little Q&A at the very end. So feel free to either hang on to your questions, or you can put them in the chat box and we'll address them at the end. So Lauren gave you this background on our assessment, and as she said, we're expecting only about 10% of our cities that go through this assessment process to actually be certified right away. So what you're wondering is, why should I do this then? If the odds of me getting certified is like not even that high on this first year, what is in it for me? Why should I go through this process? And there are 3 major perks for why you should, and I'm going to tell you all about them. Perk number 1 is that, as Lauren was starting to tell you, you get to really fully understand your city's current practices. So when you complete this assessment, we're having you answer how you are performing towards these 45 different criteria. And that's going to give you a really rich and comprehensive understanding of how your city is performing comparatively towards this 45 criteria, but also against other cities, because you're going to have a sense of how cities like you are performing too, and for your city's size and for your experience with data practices. You know, are you where you should be? And it's one of the most valuable things that I think that we can give you here at What Works Cities, is that we give you this comprehensive report. On the left here of the screen, you can see a tweet from one of our folks at the city of Louisville, who showed a couple pictures from his own report for the city of Louisville, saying that he's seeing how he's performing against both the criteria and how he's performing comparatively to his peers, comparatively to cities that are his size and in his region, which is something that we give you for completing your assessment. And then the second perk is that as part of this report, we take a look at how you have performed, and we provide you with really clear recommended next steps. So based on how cities like you have performed, we're able to tell you, you know, here are a couple of the criteria that cities like yours were able to achieve, and that, you know, if you have completed X part of the work, then Y part of the work is kind of like the logical next step for you to take. So whether that means that you are very experienced, or, you know, perhaps you go through the assessment and you only end up between like 0 and 5 points out of the 45 criteria, we're able to say, you know, we truly understand what your state of practice is. We're giving you this report that tells you all about how your city is performing, and here are the places that make the most sense and that are the most achievable for you. And then for perk number 3, this is the juiciest one, I think, is that we have resources for all of you to help you get started. 3 main types of support that we can offer you from What Works Cities. We have educational resources, we have access to a network of your peers, and then we have support from all of our expert partners. For the first one, our educational resources, we'll get to all of our partners in a minute, but as a partner consortium, we are constantly creating toolkits and case studies, different types of content that you can engage with that are really going to help you both understand the criteria that you're working towards and understand, you know, like what tactical next steps you can take. We have access to a lot of these different kinds of tactical resources on our website, and we also will provide you with, you know, kind of direction about where you can look once you've completed an assessment. We're able to pair you to the kinds of resources that are going to be the most valuable for you, meeting you where you are now. The second one, a network of your peers. So we are really big on the belief that cities have a superpower, which is that you don't have to create something new every time. We're not competing from local government to local government. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. And so we find these opportunities where we can connect you and your team at your city to your peers in local governments that are across the country. And what we're able to do is we're able to give you different moments, both in person and virtually, when you're able to connect to discuss the challenges that you share. And to talk about, you know, what's really worked for you and your city, share your successes, share the tactics that you took, and work as a larger nationwide community to build these critical data skills and to really develop strong practices that can create a more effective government for you and to lead to results for the people that call your city home. And then this last piece of the perk is that we have support from all of our 5 expert partners. So as Lauren said at the top of this webinar, we have 5 partners, all funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies for the What Works Cities initiative. But we have this group of 5 that each specializes in, you know, particular subsets of the 45 criteria that you can achieve to become certified. And I'll leave this up on the screen. Feel free to read for yourself, but I'll highlight, you know, just a couple of examples. Results for America, where Lauren and I both are seated. we are the folks that are helping you through the certification assessment process, matching you based on how you're performing to the kind of support that makes the most sense for you, and then creating these opportunities for you to connect with the rest of the expert partners and to connect with our content to really drive progress towards your certification. And then I'll just leave this up for a moment. Feel free to take a look. We also have partners at the Center for Government Excellence at Johns Hopkins who are starting a training academy, this data academy that is really robust and full of different courses that you can use to, drive your own, to drive your team's progress together virtually, and also with the potential for opportunities that pop up on in-person trainings. And they cover courses in open data and performance management, in data management, and a lot more. So we are really excited that that's one thing that is also available to you upon completing your assessment, is that you'll have access to all of those different kinds of trainings as well. And so the last thing that we want to talk through is that in 2019, we're launching a program called Sprints. You can read all about it on our website. The link is listed at the bottom there, and we'll be sharing it out later. But essentially, Sprints are 2 to 8 week long virtual opportunities where you can tackle a small subset of certification criteria with a group of your peers. So what we have for you, if you go to that website, is we have a full calendar for 2019 of all of the different sprints that we are offering. And each of our What Works Cities partners is participating in this program where they're going to be offering these short-term opportunities where they will provide you with webinars, calls, toolkits, different kinds of resources, and opportunities to connect with one another. And each of them are tied directly to your certification criteria. So once you've completed an assessment, you're able to take a look at that site, see which criteria are being covered by these sprints, and you can sign up to join. There isn't a limit to the number of cities that can. And our very first one is going to be starting in January on the 14th. It's BIT's Trial in a Box. So if you don't know our partners at the Behavioral Insights team, they are going to be doing this really exciting sprint that you can read about online. But essentially, they're going to be walking through how you do a randomized control trial and an evaluation and scale that to work, multiple times across your city. Basically, what's going to happen is when you complete a sprint, you have the opportunity to become, at the very least 1 point closer towards being certified, because all of these sprints tackle content that is going to help you reach milestones towards that certification and towards achieving the point for the criteria. And once you have completed sprints and other learning opportunities, we have different opportunities to highlight cities and local governments that have made progress and that are doing this work. So whether that be through our own channels or through our badging program, which we will be able to talk to you about in 2019, we're going to have these different moments where we can highlight your successes, which we're very excited about. So a lot of information. We're going to talk you guys through an example with a make-believe city, which we are calling Pleasantville, Ohio. This is Anika. We're going to talk about Anika, who is our Chief Performance Officer from Pleasantville, Ohio, and give you an example of what it would look like to go through this process with our sample, CPO here, Anika. So Anika is from Pleasantville, Ohio. They have a population of 95,000. And let's say she starts this journey in December of 2018. She completes an assessment for her city, for Pleasantville, and she turns it into at the very end of December, which is what provides all of us at Results for America with the information necessary to put together her certification report. So in January, let's say she receives a certification report, and in her report, she sees that her city has scored 9 points out of the possible 45. Inside that report are these next steps, and they tell her that she has received an invitation to take some courses at the GovX Training Academy. Included in her recommended next steps are, certain criteria points that she is best suited to tackle. So Anika takes her report, and within that report, she sees there's a link to the sprint calendar. she looks at the calendar with her team and she decides, you know, these upcoming 4 sprints over the course of 2019 are going to be the best ones that we can tackle that meet us where we are now. So Anika, she connects with her team of cities, all of the cities that are working towards the same criteria, and they decide, okay, we're all going to start together for the low-cost evaluation trial in a box sprint, which is the one that's starting in January. And they take that sprint together. It lasts for 6 weeks. It covers 3 evaluation criteria. And once she's completed it, she does a progress report in April of 2019, and she sees that her score has been updated to 12. Pleasantville, Ohio gets a little badge with her progress report, and they're highlighted in our monthly newsletter, the What Works Cities Spotlight in May. So then she applies again to double check on her progress. She updates her progress with us, and she gets a progress report in July that says that her score has increased to 14. Her team is invited to participate in our in-person learning opportunity, the What Works Cities on Tour, and they continue to do work with the GovX Training Academy, and also working with us here at RFA to continue to deepen and embed data practices across their city government. Her final progress report in October says that she's increased 2 more points. She receives that progress report. It has bumped her score up to 16, and she's able to talk to her mayor and say, you know, Mayor, we started out at the beginning of the year with 9 points. We've now moved up to 16. We should reapply to be certified. And so she applies again in 2020 for certification. Over the course of that full year for Anika, she's discovered that she's performing better than 85% of cities her size. She's received the attention from her mayor, who says, you know, we're so excited about the improvements that, sorry, someone could mute themselves, I think. But she received a tweet about her mayor saying, you know, we've made improvements and we're so proud of our team here at Pleasantville for progressing so much. She sees that What Works Cities certification has provided her with a clear roadmap of what it is that she can tackle and should tackle next. And she's excited to do it again for 2020. Hopefully she will be coming for that #1 spot comparatively to her peers. And that is a little sample with Anika from Pleasantville, Ohio. So I think at this moment we're gonna pause here and see if we have any questions from folks on the line, or Lauren, if there are questions in the chat box that you want to chat through for those who are not joining by computer.
Yeah, great. So we do have some questions in the chat box. Thanks so much, everyone, for providing them. We have one question regarding whether or not we will be providing the slides at the end of the presentation. And we did record this presentation, and we will be making it available via a link. So we will have that made available for those whose information we have as participants, and otherwise we'll be sharing it out with our network as well. We also had another question about whether or not county governments are eligible to participate in What Works Cities. So currently at this time, we are not able to certify counties. We are working with local governments that have structures that are most similar to cities that are in population above 30,000. And we would, however, still encourage you, any counties or any jurisdictions that may not qualify, to still review the certification criteria and perhaps reach out to us by email, and we can even share more resources that are available to help you, even if we're not able to fully engage you through What Works City.
Great. Are there any questions from folks who are on the phone or brave enough to show their voice? Okay, so the only last point that I wanted to mention is thank you so much for Ulrich, who asked this question in the chat box. In order to be considered for certification for the work that you've done in 2018, you need to submit an assessment by December 31st, 2018. So by the end of this year, fill out your assessment to be considered to be certified. However, if you just want access to the resources, that is something that is available all year round. You can assess your practice at any time, and you'll have access to the GovX Training Center, to all of our sprints, and to all of the other opportunities for support, both from the network of peers and from our expert partners. The initial assessment, I think someone asked if there was a cost to assess. There is not. It is entirely free. And are there any other questions that we missed here?
Yeah. Oh, is there a question on the line?
I think that was just your echo.
Great. So another question here is just regarding if you feel your city may not be ready for certification, are you able to still go through answering questions in the survey and get a report? Absolutely. As long as you are local government eligible, 30,000 population and above, you will receive the full report and then gain access to all of the benefits that Madeline outlined. And we encourage you to do so regardless of whether or not you feel you would be certified this year.
Yep, and then I'm just going to reiterate this again because I think it's so important, but we actually anticipate that the majority of the local governments that go through this process are not going to be certified right away. What we are excited about is that we're able to help you fully understand what your practice is through this comprehensive report and give you access to all of these resources and types of support that are going to help you drive your progress. And whether that means you're just starting out or if you're very experienced, the report that you're going to receive is going to be valuable for you no matter what. Are there other questions?
Yeah.
There's a, oh, okay.
I see a question here about whether or not it may be better to try to get a first pass of certification assessment earlier. So whether you should wait to be certified, you should wait to apply till you think you'll be certified, or whether you should apply sooner so you can get access to the resources. And again, I think that's the point we're going to keep driving home.
Doubling down on the same message here that it's still going to be valuable for you. Even if you end up scoring 0 out of 45, there's going to be a lot of information for you about how to get started and where to get started. And yeah, I think that is absolutely appropriate whether or not you think that the score is going to be high from the get-go. Great.
And did want to just reiterate, yes, about the application and when certification is granted. We are, at least for this year, asking that cities apply again by the end of the year for 2018 certification and to receive access right away for all of the perks and benefits that Madeline discussed, and for all of the sprints and the courses that are taking place starting as early as January. So the earlier that you're able to submit and submit by the end of this year, the earlier you'll receive access to those benefits. We are likely to announce cities by in the beginning of next year, or in the first quarter or two of next year, and so we'll continue to reach out to the audience interested about when the timing is for future certification announcements for future years.
Great. And then I see that somebody asked a question about whether completing the assessment, if you didn't complete the assessment, would that disqualify you access to the resources? It wouldn't disqualify you, but we only grant access. You are only eligible to receive all of the different types of support that we have to offer if you have submitted that assessment. And a reminder that for that What Works Cities Training Academy, you can receive access to all of the courses within that training academy immediately. So among the other types of support that we have, whether it's rolling across the 2019 year worth of sprints, we also have these courses that are available right away, which you have access to upon completing.
And I should note that the entire certification application process is confidential. I didn't note that earlier. We do not share information that you provide to us out publicly. We are only really truly announce those cities that actually achieve certification. So you're able to get your assessment, get an idea of where your practices currently stand, and engage with the network without us sharing out scores or rankings or anything like that.
Great. Any last questions here? Okay, we're going to keep going, and if there are any final questions, feel free to either jump in or you can send them in the group chat messenger. So big thank you from both of us here. We're so excited to get all of you through this process and to get to share all the different kinds of support that we have available. That's our contact information here. If you have other questions, you can feel free to take down our names, give us a shout. We have this link for you here if you would like to go through the assessment process right away, and it's also public on our website. On that website, you're going to be able to see, the link to the sprints page that has all of the different kinds of sprints that we have available for the coming year. And sorry, just checking to see if we got any other questions here. And so if you have any final thoughts, feel free to send us messages. And Lauren, do you have any other things to add here? Sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah, so we have a question regarding whether you can submit the assessment without submitting supporting documentation. And the answer is you are able to do so, but we do ask for narrative in some instances as part of documentation. So documentation really is just how we can validate whether or not your city has the practice. So in some cases, it's just a link to something that's publicly facing. And in other cases, it's continued context to how the practice currently exists in your local government. And so we would ask that you go through and actually do your best to even fill in the narrative pieces so we can get the clearest picture of where your local government practices stand. And with regards also, there's a question around the overall threshold for achieving certification. We can tell you again the percentage of applicants that actually achieve certification versus those that apply. And it's a pretty high bar. And so again, about 10% of cities that apply or fewer would actually be certified, just to give you a sense of the threshold.
Great. Someone asked that we share our contact information again, so we're going to go back a slide for you. Feel free to reach out with any questions. You can also write us at certification@whatworkscities.org. Great. All right, if we don't have any further questions, then I think we'll just wrap up a little early for the day, but feel free to reach out to us separately, and we look forward to seeing all of you through this process and through the different types of support that we have.
And thank you all for joining today. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to the opportunity to partner with you all on this work.
Great. Okay. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care.